Very good. Welcome everybody to this month's webinar. So monthly we do one online webinar and then we do one in-person seminar for our practice members. And today we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to live stream to YouTube so we can save this and have content for people to peruse later. And this is probably the topic that I talk to most about people, because oftentimes we think that or people come to us because of neck pain, low back pain, and they're not necessarily sure what might cause that. For instance, if people have this back pain that seemingly comes out of the blue, it definitely most often is related to something that you're doing on a consistent basis. And in general, what people do most consistently is go to work. And then how you spend your time at work is a very important critical factor about how you feel as far as the presence of stiffness, tension, and then ultimately pain. So today the topic, workplace ergonomics, is going to give you a glimpse into the necessary environment that will help you to minimize your back pain, neck pain, shoulder stiffness, and also maximize your productivity, because we know that as you experience those symptoms, it interrupts your ability to stay focused on work and therefore just prevents you from doing the job that you have to do. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to go here, just an image. I want you to think about how you feel during the day. Are you more like the person on the left, or do you feel like the person on the right? I mean, obviously, I think sometimes it happens. It could be both of us. There will be periods of both of these. It can be periods of time where you feel great, and sometimes then there will be these lulls throughout the day. But a lot of what I talk about is how we can leverage the natural cycles within our body with, the sleep awake cycles, the post-meal hormonal changes that happens with eating food. And the reality is too that we are physical beings. It's kind of an obvious statement, but we know that the more we move, the more we stimulate our neurology, stimulate brain activity, and the more productive we can be. So a lot of the difference between the person on the left in this photo and the person on the right is just finding ways to get little bits of movement. And I know the topic of this talk is ergonomics, but one ergonomic statement I like to say is that the best ergonomic position is your next ergonomic position. So the operative there is movement. We just got to figure out how to get more movement, even if it's subtle, into our day-to-day. So this became glaringly obvious when there was the research started to come out. Now this one is specifically for Singapore, but the statistics that shows 70 to 80% of working adults in Singapore suffer from some form of back, shoulder, and or neck pain. And I think that I experience this as a practitioner because I'll have people who are 25 years old, they go, I have some neck pain here, but not so serious because all my colleagues have it. Or it's common, right? These minimizing statements saying that, well, because it is something that is common and because my coworkers have it, then it's okay. But it's definitely not. Anytime you have any type of pain, it's a signal from your body telling something has to change. So the next article, this research was paramount in the way that it started to help us to look at the negative impacts of sedentary position or seating. So this low back pain and its relationship with sitting behavior among sedentary office workers. And the conclusion was that sitting is linked to higher mortality and cardiovascular disease risk in inactive adults. However, moderate to vigorous physical exercise meeting current guidelines can reduce or eliminate this risk. So those guidelines about movement, if it's mobility, strength training, or cardiovascular output, that's a whole nother separate workshop. And we just did that one in the office last month. But definitely the main fundamental component of this is that we have to break up that sedentary lifestyle. The convenience of modern society has lent itself to us spending a lot more time being in one position, if it's for recreation or for work. And so a lot of people then started to equate this sitting as the new smoking. The research has found that prolonged sitting is detrimental to overall health and healing. This study looked at leisure time spent sitting in relation to total mortality in a prospective cohort of U.S. adults. So this was in the United States. And this was looked at leisure time. So work and leisure. So it's literally that simple. If you're experiencing some type of ache, pain, stiffness, you have to think of yourself, okay, how can I move more? And it doesn't have to be signing up for a marathon or going for a gym. It can be as simple as getting up and going for a walk. And once you start to create that consistency with this movement, it starts to break up the patterns that are established from a chronic repetitive seated position. So now that we kind of have this idea about how movement is integral in our overall health and wellness, I want to go into the main topic, and that is ergonomics and what it means to be in an ergonomic position and how you can optimize your workspace. So let's get to a working definition of ergonomics. Your working posture, how you sit, how you stand, what the position your body is in, your working posture versus your working setup. So if something is ergonomically designed, let's say a mouse or a keyboard or a chair, if these are ergonomically designed, it means that it supports your position in the working position, or supports it in the most ergonomically friendly, or putting the least amount of tension into the spine. So it's something that's ergonomically designed, fits the body to support you in that working position. And when we look at, I'm going to go through and talk about an optimal ideal sitting position, because most often, even though yes, there's a bunch of stuff that's been in development about standing workstations and mixing that up, even treadmill workstations, and we'll get into some of those details later on. But for the most part, I would say the majority of people do spend time seated at the desk. So we want to take a look at these 4 different categories for desk ergonomics. First and foremost, the position. We start at the base, working our way up. Position of your feet, knees, legs. Second, your chest and back. Position of your chest and back. Third, arms and wrist. Fourth, the eyes, monitor, and screen. So if you start at that foundational component and work yourself up, you'll be in a position that's creates as little tension as possible throughout the spine. And if you look at the diagram here on the left, it'll give you a bit of an idea about what it means to be ergonomically designed. So with seat support, the seat back, the seat height, all of these, if you have the ability to change, if the armrests go up and down, if the seat can adjust to your position, making sure that the equipment you have not only fits your body, but then allows you to interact with your work environment with as little stress and tension into your body as possible. And then that also then comes to your desk, your screen, the position of the keyboard, the mouse, and then those last 4 things in the body, or the last 4 things on the bottom with relation to your body. And this is what we want to get into, and we'll go over them one by one, those 4 categories. And then I'll talk about variations with that. So first and foremost, with desk ergonomics, we want to look at your feet, knees, and legs. So these are all ideal scenarios, and some of this stuff, I want you to really look at this, and when you're listening to any type of suggestion, if you feel like it's just impossible for you to attain that or do something like that, then work towards something that is manageable. We want to have something that is easy for you to implement. The easier it is, the more likely you are to create a habit out of it. So if you say something like, oh, I already do that, great. That's an opportunity for you to capitalize on that, hopefully create some habit around that type of position. So feet, knees, legs. First, do your best to wear flat shoes or with no heels. So if high heels, that starts to create a point at the toe, you're creating a shortening in the calf. There will be discomfort that eventually comes from those joints if you're doing it consistently over time. Best thing to do is just your bare feet on the ground. You can even move your toes a little bit as you're sitting there. Both feet flat on the floor. And if it is difficult for you to reach the floor, then put a footrest, elevating your feet up. So putting both feet on the floor will provide a stable foundation. I've had a lot of people ask me about, is it bad to sit cross-legged? And the reality is like any one position isn't inherently evil or bad for the body. So if I sit cross-legged, I can do that right. I can't personally do that right now because of hip tension. But if I were to do that and held that there for a few minutes, 30 minutes or something like this, it wouldn't necessarily create this detrimental effect. But what happens is that if this becomes a habit, that's where then motor pathways are developed, and that can cause a much more dramatic impact on our posture, the muscular tension patterns associated with joint mobility, and then also other components of our health and wellness. So both feet flat on the floor, use a foot rest if you need, knees at 90-degree angle or more, meaning that your feet, the closer you have your feet to your bum, that will be a decreased angle there. So that's less than 90. So if you're slightly extending your feet out, so that angle from the hip knee is greater than 90, that's going to put the least amount of tension into the quadricep and your hamstring there. So making sure they're slightly extended out. And then knees in front of chair, one hand width away. So that's just the position of your bum. You want to make sure that you want to utilize the equipment you do have. So if you have a chair, sliding back as far as you can, first so that hip is in touch with the backrest, and then that will get us to the next body part. But that position will also then help your knee position. The other thing is the seat height. You want to make sure that your knee is below your hip. So if your seat is too low, your knees will raise up, and that creates more tension at the hip flexor. So it's important to make sure that you can raise your seat up a little bit so that your knee will drop down. So this is kind of then a balancing act between, well, how high can my seat go before my feet come off the floor? So you want both of those to be possible. If you can have your knee lower than your hip with both of your feet flat on the ground, and with your knees in front of the chair, one hand width away. So that's the back of the knee in front of that chair. So that's starting from the foundation, working your way up. Then we get into the back, chest and back. So you want to keep, like I said, sliding your bum all the way back on that seat so that low back engages with that lumbar support. So a neutral low back, curve in that lower back. Think about how when you stand up, if you stand against a wall, there's going to be a little arc where your low back does not touch that wall. That's what we want. We want the low back support of the chair to come into that part of our spine right there. If you are unable to do that, then I would recommend getting some type of lumbar support that you can find. There are a different variety that you can get even in a Guardian or some type of medical supply store or online. But making sure that you're in that neutral position. So the benefit of engaging with that lumbar support is it forces you to extend a little bit, so then your shoulder comes over your hip. As we go back, I'm just going to jump back here 2 slides, because when we look at this, your hip, elbow, shoulder, head, we want that all in line there. So that's important in the way that we establish that foundation from sliding your bum all the way back. Excellent. In addition to sliding your bum all the way back and that curve in your lumbar spine, you want to limit the rounding in your chest. And this gets us to the ergonomic design of your workspace. That a desktop is going to be better than a laptop because the keyboard on a desktop you can pull towards you, which will limit the amount of rounded. If you think about how a laptop, the keyboard and the screen are close together, so you sort of have to lean forward, and it can create this roundedness in the chest, which creates roundedness in the low back, roundedness in the neck, which then just creates a whole host of stiffness and tension throughout the spine. And then sitting on your sit bones. So that's that foundational component of starting from the bum all the way back, engaging the backrest, and your chest in an upright position, not leaning and rounding forward. So that's with the chest and back. And this is where a chair with some versatility, if the bottom part of the chair slides forward or back, the backrest can maybe engage a little more of lumbar support, your headrest as well for neck and upper back support. Next we go to your arms and wrists. So arms and wrists are a huge, I had just mentioned this with the laptop. The position of your arms make a huge difference of the amount of tension present in your upper shoulders, your upper back, and your neck. If you're rounding, leaning forward to work on that laptop, you're going to get shortening of the muscles in your pectorals, the front part of your thoracic cavity or your chest. And as those round forward, these muscles in the shoulder are going to take over to stabilize your shoulder blade. That's why people say when, I store my chest in my shoulders. You don't store your chest, you don't store your stress in your shoulders. What you're doing is that you have the ability to focus on your work to the extent that you're ignoring the cues of tension that come to your body. And as your shoulders round forward, the superior trapezius, so the muscle in the shoulder, starts to actively engage to stabilize your shoulder blades. So you're just ignoring your body system signals until this muscle gets so tight that it interrupts your ability to focus on your work. And then you think, wow, I'm so stressed from working for so long. I store my stress here. So in reality, we can reduce that tension by opening up those shoulders, keeping those shoulder blades back and down. And the way we do this is the position of our arms and wrists. So you should have your wrists below your elbows. So this then relates to the surface of the desk in addition to the position of your arm rests. You should have a negative angle, so the wrists below your elbows and above your hands. That's the most ergonomic position for typing at a keyboard. Arms at 90 degrees parallel to the floor, so that's the position. And fingers should be, shoulders, fingers, arms are relaxed. Any tension that is built up is going to manifest in discomfort, pain, and stiffness throughout the day. So the best way to do this, like I said, have a desk that can lower down a little bit. You don't want to be reaching up to the keyboard, and a keyboard that can come to you. One of the best things you can do if you do have a laptop is to buy a Bluetooth keyboard that can come near to you. I'll go over some of these recommendations on equipment in just a little bit. I just wanted to go over the specifics of ergonomic design and optimal position for sitting. Final component we look at is the monitor. You want the monitor directly in front of you. Any turning and having to look off to the side, that will create unilateral stress and tension. If you have two monitors that you have to work from, face the one that you're most commonly working on. And if you have to turn to another keyboard or another monitor, turn your whole body, not just your head, and work, so we can maintain that neutral position. The top of the screen should be even with your eyes. So that means that another reason why working on a laptop can be stressful for the body ergonomically, because it's low and you have to look down to it. A desktop allows you to raise up that monitor. Have a document holder off to the side of the monitor so you can look to the side rather than looking down and having more flexion in the neck. And the same thing, this is that dual monitor I just had talked to you about. Same height and distance, and hopefully you can turn your body to that. So then that really gives you a foundational component and understanding about how to go from the base, bottom, all the way up through to the top. Now, any variation from that will not necessarily be a problem unless you start to create a habit around it. If you're thinking, well, yes, I have a habit of always putting my right leg up on the seat and sitting on that, you have to figure out a way to start to create a new pattern. And what I always recommend to people is just start your day in that ideal position. Start your day with feet flat on the ground, bum against the chair, opening up and getting yourself prepared to work in this position. If you then go into some other default setting, that's okay. Then you take an opportunity to reset next time you increase your awareness about your position. So let's get into some of the pro tips and upgrades that might be beneficial for you. There's a huge influx of standing workstations into the market, and there are a lot of really excellent choices. We've done a partnership with OmniDesk in our clinic, so they are in both of our all three of our consultation rooms. We have one in the adjusting area as well. If you'd like to come in and check those out, I'm sure you've seen them. We do have an ability for you to get a discount on those as well. I'll go through and talk about how that's possible in just a little bit. So standing desk benefits: less impact on your low back because you're not hinging at the hip, so it's in that upright position. It provides you a variety of movement. This goes back to what I was saying earlier. We have to figure out ways to get little bits of movement peppered in throughout our day. A standing workstation is a great way to do this. You have increased blood flow and circulation. When you're in that upright position, those joints aren't in those locked position, which is cutting off circulation. Better options for your joints. And then sitting, then this is the whole point of the ergonomic talk in general is that sitting all day is leading to increased mortality. So oftentimes people say, well, what's the right balance of sitting and standing? And the reality is, again, you have to do something that seems manageable. So if it's too much to split the day, 30 minutes sitting, 30 minutes standing, you want to at least be able to break up. For every hour of sitting, bare minimum, try to stand for at least 5 minutes. Breaking up that routine, we can then interfere with those motor pathways before they do become a permanent muscular tension pattern. Going into the monitor, to raise this on the left, the laptop monitor stand lifts it up, and you can see there's a Bluetooth keyboard in front that will allow it to get that monitor up so you can have your body in an upright position looking, and then the Bluetooth keyboard pulls close to you so you're not having to round your shoulders. The one on the right, those are for desktop monitors. That allows you to get an extension above the desk, so it gives you, ample room to work on your desktop, but also gets that monitor to the appropriate eye level. As far as the equipment that supports you in those ergonomic positions, having a good chair that adjusts to different body types. Nobody is one size fits all. Torsos, like the length of your mid-body, legs, arms, neck, shoulder, all of that is different. So finding a chair that's adjustable is going to be the most ergonomic. A mouse that twists your hand up instead of flat, that helps to reduce the amount of tension on the tendons and muscles that come through that wrist. A split keyboard as opposed to flat, that split keyboard again is a more neutral position for the hands. It's more relaxed through there. So these are just some of the tips or some of the equipment that you can get to help support you. The easiest thing that I would recommend, if you do work on a laptop, get a Bluetooth keyboard and a laptop stand. That will reduce greatly the amount of tension that comes through that upper back, shoulders, and down into your arms and lower neck. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have a relationship with Omnidesk. They make fantastic equipment. You can scan this QR code and get 17% off of purchases up to $500. Go to their website. They got a ton of great stuff. You can go to the showroom at Fudan. They're very helpful. They have customizable options as well. Great company. We've been very lucky to actually do a partnership with them. So that's all about ergonomics. When you think about ergonomics, again, it's about the equipment that supports you in the best working position. But again, like I had said, the fundamental component of ergonomics is that we're finding ways to break up that sedentary position. So finding that next position or getting a little bit of movement into the spine. So that's what I want to go through now, is teach you how we can go through some suggestions on how you might be able to get a little bit of movement into your day-to-day. And the reason this is so important is because it reduces stiffness in the musculature. People oftentimes say, oh, I gotta stretch that muscle because it's stiff. You don't need to stretch, you just have to work it. If you're stretching a muscle that has been chronically stiffened throughout the day, it's not going to relieve it at all. Even pressing on that muscle isn't going to relieve the tension. It's that contraction and relaxation that reduces the stiffness in the muscle. It helps you to strengthen muscle and also release endorphins, so you're going to start to feel better. So in the workplace, movement opportunities are listed here. Standing workstation, we just went over that, ergonomic chairs. Walking meetings, this is something that might be beneficial to help you and your colleagues break up that routine. Exercising during your lunch, if you have something that is available, convenient to also you have the time to do so. Access to fitness facilities, and that's the convenience factor. If you have something that's near the office where you work or near your home, making sure that you can get some movement. If you do have space in your office to have a movement room where you can go in there and maybe do some foam rolling, have a yoga mat where you can go through a spinal hygiene exercises, taking momentary stretching breaks, and then maybe active commuting. Active commuting is something like getting off one bus stop earlier and walking home, or taking the stairs instead of the lift. Putting in little bits of extra movement throughout your day to optimize to reduce your overall sedentary time spent sitting. I do want to get into stretching breaks. Now, when you start to build tension in your body, you want to listen to it. I know that it's easy to ignore. If I have tension here and I just start to ignore it and keep about my work, eventually it's going to put you into a position where that tension becomes pain. So listen to your body. And once you have stopped and taken note, done an internal audit of what you feel, then we've got to figure out how to get some movement into the body. So first and foremost, moving through, the most common thing I see in office work is just stiff neck. So a very easy way to reduce neck stiffness is to just go through gentle ranges of motion to the side, hold it for 1 to 2 seconds, go slowly to the other side, holding that for 1 to 2 seconds. Again, the contraction and relaxation is what helps that muscle tone down and that stiffness and tension. Looking forward, bringing that chin to the chest, and then looking up, head to the ceiling. So this, going through that gentle range of motion, in many cases will pump nutrient-dense fluid through those joint capsules to maintain the health of the discs, tendons, and ligaments in those areas, and also then help to decrease that muscular tension. This one is the same thing with that desk, stretching that front of your neck, kind of bringing those chest back, and just looking up to the ceiling. You'll feel that. I feel it at the base of my neck here. That does mean that I have some compression and tension through that lower neck and upper back there. But I extend into that, just at the border of that discomfort, so I can get some movement into those joints. Excuse me, I'm a little stumped up here today. Shoulder stretch. So much, the position, I talked about the position of your arms as it relates to shoulder tension. And what we can do is just get a little extra movement by hands behind your head, opening up those, bringing those elbows out. Another thing, you can keep your elbows together, hands behind your head, and extend up. You feel a stretch through your tricep and also your latissimus dorsi there, extending up. So you can do both. Elbows out, chest up, elbows in, head up. And getting movement, opening up your chest. We want to get, the more we're able to engage our shoulders with movement from our mid-back, the easier it's going to be to stand up in an upright position. So stretching out the shoulders, even just getting movement into the shoulder, reaching one hand up, going outside, coming down, that helps. Again, contraction and relaxation of muscle, which that is what helps to reduce tension. Not necessarily stretching, but contraction, relaxation. Bring your shoulders up and down, up, back, down. Bring your head through ranges of motion, helping to decrease that overall stress and tension. A very, very good exercise if you're having any type of neurological symptoms, maybe pain, tingling, and numbness into the hands or fingers, is we're looking at, it's called a T stretch. So you can see that picture. You put your arms in a T, right? One palm up to the ceiling and the other one turned down, palm down. Now you turn your head to the side that your palm is up, and you can kind of move those arms up and down, looking up and looking down. Get stretching through the neck on the side you're turning away from, and then moving the shoulders will engage the musculature and kind of create some pulling and stretching through the nerve rootlets in the spine, which can help to free up and create a little bit of circulation in those areas that have been stuck. Then switch the other side, turn your palm up on the right side or the opposite side, palm down on the other side, looking that way, looking down, up, and going through movement. Again, movement is the critical component for decreasing overall muscular tension. Movement. Have I said that enough today? And then low back. The two easiest for desk-bound stretch for the low back are the quadratus lumborum stretch, the QL stretch, and your glute stretch. Both of these start in the same way. You create a figure four. So you'd be, let's say, if I'm going to stretch my right QL, I'm bringing my right foot on top of my left knee, and I'm pushing down on that right knee. You might feel that stretch in your right hip socket. In order to target the glute, then you do that same thing, except you lean forward and feel that stretch through the glute on that side. So again, this is just a desk-bound stretch, something that you can do easy while sitting in your desk. So that figure four, pulling that foot on the opposite knee, pushing down, and then leaning forward is glute. Just pushing down is going to stretch that QL. And when you're doing a stretch like this, you want to go to the border of discomfort, so getting a gentle pull through the muscle. You might even feel it in the knee because of the rotation there. And holding that for a period of 10 to 15 seconds and doing that, the repetition of 3 to 5 repetitions. After you stretch, a very good thing to do is just stand up. Activate those glutes, stand up, walk a little bit, maybe do a few body weight squats, 5 to 10 body weight squats after doing a stretch. The figure 4 stretch or the glute stretch can help to just increase blood flow to those areas. And then this desk bound stretch, this one is so fantastic for your hip flexor, because so much of what I see in relation to low back discomfort or knee discomfort even comes from hip tension, and more specifically increased tension of the hip flexors, so the muscles on the front side of your hip. So this couch stretch, you're actually utilizing your chair. Bring this down just a little bit. You're utilizing your chair, getting that foot on the back of the chair, squeezing your glute muscle to feel that stretch on the front side of the hip. You can even do a little Google search or a YouTube search for couch stretch, and this will give you a great opportunity to stretch out that hip flexor. And I recommend doing this every single day. I mean, the thing is people will say, well, how often should I do this? And if I say every day, they're like, wow, that's so consistent. I mean, think about how much you sit. If I'm 44 years old. If I had a corporate desk bound job, it means that I would have sat the majority of the days of the year for 20 years. And if you're consistently doing that and not changing a lot, eventually it becomes a muscular tension pattern and if a muscle is stiff, it pulls on a bone, which decreases mobility at a joint, which eventually will increase tension, stress, and pain at that joint. So this couch stretch is fantastic for increasing your hip mobility, stretching out your quadriceps to make sure that you're limiting the amount of low back pain from hip tension. So those are all stretches that you can do, aside from this stretch, those are all stretches that you can do while you're in the desk. The other thing you can do is get up out of your desk. So getting up out of your desk, we have this 28-2 rule. That's 20 minutes of sitting, 8 minutes of standing, 2 minutes of movement. So then you obviously extrapolate that, times that by 2 to get you a complete hour. So for that movement, it can be something simple like body weight squats, just standing up, dropping down till your bum touches your chair and stand up. Lunges are very good. Hip mobility, firing up that lower kinetic chain, the glutes, hamstrings, quadriceps, they're all working with the squat and the lunge. Push-ups, activating that musculature through the upper part of the upper body, the front part of the upper body. And the reality is, like I said, if there is stiffness in your body, in the glutes, in the quads, in the low back, in the shoulders, in the chest, actively engaging these muscles in many cases will help to decrease the tension that you perceive in that muscle and decrease the overall tension and stiffness in that muscle. So activating the muscle that is stiff or increased in tension will help to decrease that overall stiffness. And like I said, most often, if people are complaining of neck pain or upper back stiffness, shoulder aching that has seemingly come out of nowhere, oftentimes it's something that's acquired. And what do I mean by that? Acquired. It's an adaptive posture that has developed from years of doing one thing. Now I know this isn't anybody of you. Like if I look at this picture, I'm like, oh, that's not me, but I see it in everybody else. When you're on the train or you're commuting on work, or if you're in a restaurant or something, you look at people looking at their phone, myself included, we're all looking down. What that does is it starts to create stress and tension, not only in the musculature. Again, what does a muscle do? It does one thing. Muscles contract. And when it contracts, it moves the two bones that it's connected to closer to each other. So if a muscle is being stretched, it has no other option than to contract to hold itself together. That's a stiff muscle, and it weakens over time, and that then eventually leads to postural deformation. So you should have this forward curved alignment in your neck, that ear above your shoulder, but as that head shifts forward, it creates an increasing downward force on the lower part of the neck, and that definitely starts to create degenerative changes in the discs. Tendons and ligaments start to negatively adapt to the years of that position, and it is 100% avoidable. And in certain cases, it's reversible, depending on the level of degenerative change. We definitely have seen improved postural position. We've seen improved objective outcomes on X-ray, and as we achieve those objective improvements, people start to feel better. And that's one of the main reasons we do look at posture. When you're in that neutral spinal position, in that upright position, ear, shoulder, hip, knee, there's the least amount of tension throughout the spine. When there's the least amount of tension on the spine, the nervous system starts to be able to work to the best of its ability. That's the important component of ergonomics. The closer we are to that ideal spinal position or that neutral spinal position, the less tension there will be through the spine and the underlying nervous system. The spine's main job, yes, one of the jobs is to help keep us up in an upright position, but the main job of the spine is to protect the master controlling system of the body. The spinal cord goes through the entire length of the spine, and then the nerve rootlets split out at each level, supplying information to all tissues within the body. So that nervous system, it is critical for our overall health, and if those bones are stuck and not moving properly, it disrupts the communication pathway from the brain to the rest of the body. Because if that nervous system is interfered with, there's no possible way that your nervous system is allowed to fully monitor every cell, muscle, gland, organ, and system in your body. Because that interference in the communication pathway disrupts the signal. Now, it's not like a hose, and you squeeze the hose and the water comes to a trickle, but it's more like static. If you've ever watched a TV from an old antenna TV and the antenna's not in the right position, there's static coming through, you're not getting the full signal. If there's pressure on a nerve rootlet, that's what it's like. You're not getting the full signal. There's a disrupted signal. There's a misrepresentation about what's going on in the body, and the brain receives that information and then sends a responding signal that is a misrepresentation of a misrepresentation. And this is where symptoms and pain and discomfort come into play. These misaligned vertebra, subluxations, are like blown circuits. You know, in your house you have too much power stuff on and there's a switch that blows and you have to go up and reset that circuit breaker. And that's what the chiropractic adjustment does. It helps to reset. It's a neurological reset. It's a biomechanical reset. And we get those joints moving better so that you can express overall health and vitality. So again, to reiterate, ergonomics is a consideration given to your workplace equipment to help facilitate the least amount of tension in your body. So finding what is right for you is different from what might be right for your neighbor. But more importantly than ergonomics is figuring out little ways to build habit into your day that will then help to contract and relax these muscles that have been stiff or led to be stiff because of our sedentary lifestyle. Because we know if we're not moving, you're losing it. That's reality. If you don't move that musculature, they begin to waste away, joints start to break down. So do your best to find little ways to integrate healthy ergonomic position with movement in your day-to-day, and you will then be as healthy as possible. And if you're already a patient of ours, fantastic. Keep coming to those adjustments. We'll be able to help decrease any acute pain, increase biomechanical function to help you get the most out of those positive health changes that you're already making. So with that, we're very thankful for your opportunity to come and be with us during your lunchtime and engaging in this webinar series. We'll continue to do these each month, offering them with new ideas around the corrective and healing process and stuff that just helps to optimize your overall health from a perspective of minimal effective dose. I love this. It's what's the least amount that I can do for the most benefit. Because yes, convenience is a major factor, but it's also the easier it is to implement some type of habit, the simpler the habit is, the easier it will be something that you can assimilate into your day-to-day. So do follow us on social medias here. We do update all the time. In fact, give some information out that can help you optimize your overall office ergonomics and other tips and tricks to optimize your overall health and healing. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Dr. Jesse with Life Chiropractic Centre, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar.